Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav. We are continuing to learn Hilchas Rosh Hashanah. Specifically, we've been learning Hilchas Shofar, and we will be learning today Mirz Hashem Daf Samach Beis Amid Beis, as well as a nice piece of Daf Samach Gimel Amid Aleph. We're beginning a brand new Siman Tov Kuf Pei Ches on Samach Beis Amid Beis. Zman Tkiya Shofar, the proper time to be yotze the mitzvah of Shofar. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph, Zman Tikya Shofar Bayom V'loy Balayla. The proper time for blowing shofar, being Mekayim the mitzvah of shofar, is during the day and not at night. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cotton Aleph, Bayom V'loy Balayla. How do we know this? From a pasuk. Tiksiv, because the pasuk says, Yom Teruah Yihi Elochem. It should be a day of Teruah, a day of shofar blowing. So the shofar has to be blown during the day, not at night. Let's say somebody somehow was in a situation where he did not hear shofar, and it's already the end of the day, it's already past Shkia, it's between Shkia and Seisa Kechavim, the halachic twilight, the time of Ben Hashmashos. What should you do? Yiska B'loi Bracha, he brings down over here, well, it's a little bit of a lengthy, let's skip that. But he brings down over here that you should go ahead and you should blow shofar during Ben Hashmashos. However, you should do it without a bracha, because since it's Ben Hashmashos, it's a suffix. Now, there is a very interesting discussion, and I think there might even be a Dirshu footnote about this. Yes, it's Dirshu footnote number 1. There is a very interesting discussion amongst the Achronim. It's very nice to say that on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, if you didn't blow shofar yet, and now it's Ben Hashmashos, you should blow during Ben Hashmashos without a bracha. Because the chiyuv of shofar on the first day of Rosh Hashanah is a chiyuv daraisa. During Ben Hashmashos, that's a time of suffix. So now we have a suffix. It's after Shkia. Is it still the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and therefore you still have a chiyuv daraisa of shofar? Or maybe it's already the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and by us, Anan de B'kiyim B'kfiyah D'Yarcha, we know that the first day of Yom Tov is the real day of Yom Tov, and the second day is not, is only Minig Aviseinu B'Yadenu. So maybe after Shkia, at the end of the first day of Rosh Hashanah, maybe that's already the second day, and you don't have a Chiyuv Daraisa of Shofar anymore. So since it's a suffix Daraisa, we would paskin that you blow Shofar during Ben Hashmashos, albeit without a bracha. But now let's say it's the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and you haven't blown shofar yet, and now it's after Shkia. Well, the whole chiyuv of shofar on the second day is a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. Now that it's Ben Hashmashos, you have a suffix. Is it the second day of Rosh Hashanah, or is it Matzah Yom Tov? That's a suffix d'Rabbanan. On a suffix d'Rabbanan, why should you blow again without a bracha? Maybe on a suffix d'Rabbanan, you don't have to at all. And we find such a concept. I think he brings it down over here. Yes, if you look in the Dirshu footnotes, so it's footnote number 1, but if you go to the second paragraph of the footnote, which is on the top of the second column in the page of footnotes, it says here, Ulam la'el in Siman Tov Pei Sif Kotnei, Kosav, Shemisha Mesupik B'yom Hasheni Im Shama Kol Shofar, Einoi Tzarech L'Skaya. If you have a suffix whether or not you heard shofar on the second day, you don't have to blow. Levisha Suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Well, if he's there, according to that, hu hadin b'loy takad ben hashmashos b'yom hasheni. We should say that if it's after Shkia, it's ben hashmashos. Also, you shouldn't have to blow. Shesafik im yesh alav chiyuv l'skaya. During ben hashmashos, it's a chiyuv. It's a safik. Do you still have a chiyuv at all? Sheken yitachet shekvar ein zer Rosh Hashanah. Maybe it's not Rosh Hashanah at all. So l'chayra hadin hayitzarich liyosh lo yeh chayv l'skaya. You would think that the halacha would be that there's no reason to blow shofar. Achein ra masha kasav la'el b'das yesh mishayim b'shulchan aruch sham she'af b'savik d'Rabbanan, even by a savik d'Rabbanan. Im niten l'kayim es ha-mitzvah b'kalus, if there's a very easy way to be yotze the mitzvah on the tzad that you didn't do it yet, yesh l'kayim al-misafik. In essence, what we're saying is, what's the downside? It's after Shkia, the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Why shouldn't you blow shofar? It's not a big deal. Go ahead and blow shofar. So what? So it's only a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. So what? A d'Rabbanan is also something. So go ahead and blow shofar. Hopefully you'll be yotze. Okay. Now let's go weiter in the Mechaber. Says the Mechaber. So the Mechaber said over here, Zman tkiya shofar b'yom v'loy b'layla, the proper time for being kaim the mitzvah of shofar is by day, not by night. And as we saw, we learned that out from the pasuk of Yom Teruah. U'mitzvasa, and the mitzvah of shofar is mishas hanetz hachama ve'elech. Really, you should blow shofar after netz, after sunrise. Ve'im taka misha'ola amud hashachar. However, if you blew shofar even earlier, you blew shofar before netz, so you blew shofar after dawn, after alois, but before netz, yotza, you are yotza. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut and base, yotza. The minadin, according to the strict halachah, misha'ola amud hashachar yemamahu l'chol advarim. Once we're after dawn, it's already halachically day in the context of all halachas. Ella lefi she'ein hakol bekiyin boi, since not everybody knows how to discern if it's dawn yet or not. V'zimnin da'asi la'gdume, if you're going to tell somebody that he could blow shofar after dawn, he's going to look out his window. How is he going to determine whether or not it's dawn? It's very possible that he's going to make a mistake. He's going to think it was already alois, but really it's before alois. And therefore he would be blowing shofar at night, and he wouldn't be yotza. So hitzrichu chachamim lechatchila lahamtin ad hanetz. To guard against that possibility, the chachamim said, don't be an oiber chacham and try to blow shofar after alois. Wait until after netz hachama, the yom Berurah hu lakoil, because that everybody could look out the window and see if it's netz hachama yet or not. And the Mishnah Berurah says, v'loi be'inon ad sheyale kol guf hashemesh ala oretz. Netz hachama doesn't mean a full sunrise, that the entire sun is visible. Once you see the sun a little bit, it's already, the netz hachama has already begun, you're already allowed to blow shofar. So again, this is why the halachah is, the Mechaber said that you have to blow shofar by day. That means you could really start blowing shofar already after alois. But the Mechaber said, mitzvah samishas hanetz hachama ve'elech. Really, the mitzvah is to blow it after netz. Why? Because we're afraid to let you blow shofar before netz. If we're going to let you blow shofar all the way by alois, you might think it's alois, but it might still be night of the previous night. Therefore, we don't want you to do that. However, continues the Mishnah Berurah, miu, kol zeh me'ikar din Torah. All of this is the strict daraisa. Or if you have a situation of a shasat chak, somehow it's Rosh Hashanah morning and somebody's got to go somewhere and he has a shasat chak and he can't wait to blow shofar. The chachamim were misakin that when should we blow shofar? Our shofar blowing should be attached to tfilas musaf. That's why we blow the tekiyos, the miyushiv, the first sets of tekiyos shofar. When do we blow them? Right before musaf. And then the rest of them are during musaf and after musaf. But we don't blow shofar before that. V'ramu b'gemara b'taima, and the Gemara gives a reason for this. The shas hagzera haisa, because there was once a time period where there was a terrible decree on Klal Yisrael. Shalo yisku Yisrael b'shofar. There was a time that the non-Jews decreed on the Yidden that they would not be allowed to blow shofar. V'hayu arvin lahem kol sheish shais shal zman tefillah shachris. And what the non-Jews did was they guarded the Yidden, they watched them for the whole 6 hours of shachris. They watched the Yidden to make sure that they shouldn't blow shofar. Look at the Mesiris Nefesh the non-Jews had to make sure that we shouldn't chas v'shalom blow shofar. They camped against us for 6 hours to make sure that we shouldn't blow shofar. Lakach hevirua l'skaya b'musafin. So the chachamim were misakin, all right, we'll blow shofar by musaf, not by shachris. So they went and they davened shachris, and then the non-Jews thought that everything was over and they left, and then the Yidden came to daven musaf and they blew shofar by musaf. And based on this reason, nira it would seem that's why Gans Klal Yisrael has the minig already mimaisa kadmoinim gam b'tekiyos demiyushiv, that even by the earliest tekiyos that we blow before musaf, shaloi lihiyos min hazrizin hamagdimin, we should not apply the general rule of zrizin magdimin lemitzvus v'liskaya b'tchilas hayoim, to blow shofar early in the day. Now, the difference that the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim, is making over here between the tekiyas to miyushiv and the tekiyas to ma'umid is he's saying like this. I can understand that the tekiyas that we blow al haseder, the tekiyas that we blow on malchiyos, zichronos, v'shofros, I understand that those have to be in musaf because that's when they're blown. They're blown after malchiyos, after zichronos, and after shofros. But how about the tekiyas to miyushiv? By the tekiyas to miyushiv, we should say zrizin makdim and lemitzvahs, and we should blow them early in the morning. So the Chavetz Chaim is saying this is why. The reason that even the tekiyas to miyushiv are attached to musaf is because of this gzeira that once existed on Klal Yisrael. Elasamach netfilas musaf achar kriyas HaTorah. That's when we blow musaf, blow tekiyas. And this is a halachah that was very negeya last year. Va'afilu yachid atekei la'atzmai. Even somebody who has to blow shofar b'yechidus, he's davening b'yechidus. Gam kein yedaktek l'skaya achar shaloshois le'erich. He shouldn't blow shofar until at least approximately 3 hours into the day. So last year I was in quarantine on Rosh Hashanah and I davened v'sikin. I davened b'yechidus v'sikin. So I was thinking, okay, I'll daven chakras, I'll blow shofar, I'll daven musaf. No, you can't blow shofar until 3 hours into the day. Because that's already a time when everybody else is blowing shofar. What's the Chavetz Chaim referring to over here? What is this inyan of shalosh shois? So if you take a look later in the next Siman, in Taf Kuf Pei Tes, in Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Yod Aleph, the Mishnah Berurah brings down over here, what is this inyan? Because now we just learned two things. In the beginning, the Mishnah Berurah was telling us about attaching the tekiyas to musaf. Now he's saying, if you're davening b'yechidus, don't blow shofar before 3 hours into the day. Why not? So if you take a look on Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph, Siman Taf Kuf Pei Tes, Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Yud Aleph, about 2 lines into the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim says like this. Aval b'Magen Avram masik b'shem Maharil. The Magen Avram brings down from the Maharil, shalo yiska b'shloisha shoyis rishonos, that you should not blow shofar during the first 3 hours of the day. Why? Mishum da'az mifkad dina, because that's the time of din. The Gemara in Brachos tells us that the first 3 hours of the day, the Rabbeinu Shalom is yoshev badin. That's when the Rabbeinu Shalom meets out judgment. Ve'ein kedai liskaya b'yechidus. Do not blow shofar during the first 3 hours of the day when the Rabbeinu Shalom is sitting in judgment. And later on in another Mishnah Berurah, in Siman Taf Kuf Tzadik Aleph, over there, Taf Kuf Tzadik Aleph, over there it says, during the first 3 hours of the day, the Rabbeinu Shalom judges the world. If you blow shofar b'yechidus during those first 3 hours of the day, that's like an alarm ringing in Shamayim that they should look at your din. You don't want that the Rabbeinu Shalom should analyze you as a yochid. Aval kishuhu mispal b'tzibur. When you're davening together with a tzibur, hein kel kaber lo yimas. Then the Rabbeinu Shalom joins you together with the tzibur, and then he judges you as part of a tzibur, and the Rabbeinu Shalom has more rachmanus on a tzibur than on a yochid. I always heard a beautiful mashal to this from my Rebbe. It was my Rebbe in 6th grade. He gave us a mashal, and I'll never forget the mashal. He was talking about the difference between davening b'yechidus and davening b'tzibur. He said, when you daven b'yechidus, it's like your mother sent you to the fruit store, and she said, buy an apple. I need an apple for daddy for dessert. Go buy an apple. You go to the fruit store, you're busy, you're thinking about whatever. You see the apples, you grab an apple, you pay, you come home. You give the apple to your mother looks at the apple and says, it's bruised, it's soft, it's brown. This is the apple that you brought me for daddy? I sent you to get an apple for daddy for dessert? This is what you bring me? Now, that's if you're davening b'yechidus. But now imagine your mother sends you to the fruit store and says, get me a dozen apples. You go, you buy a dozen apples, and 2 of them are bruised. It's all right. Your mother finds a nice one. She gives it to your father. She doesn't say a word. You went, you got 12 apples. 10 of them are beautiful. 2 of them are bruised. Okay, big deal. That's davening b'tzibur. When you daven b'tzibur, your tefillas go up to Shemayim together with everybody else's tefillas. So if your tefillah was a shvacha tefillah, no, it gets mixed in with everything else. But when you daven b'yechidus, the Rabbeinu Shalom is taking your tefillah alone. Now the Rabbeinu Shalom looks at your tefillah. If your tefillah is a shvacha tefillah, you're in trouble. So it's the same thing here. Don't blow shofar when you're b'yechidus, because then the Rabbeinu Shalom is going to analyze you as a yachid. But if you blow shofar 3 hours into the day, that's already, there are people already davening musaf, blowing shofar. So then even though you're davening b'yechidus, your din will be gathered up together with everybody else's. Okay. Now let's go weiter in the Mechaber. Right? Yeah. We're at the end of the first line. V'im taka misha ala amud hashachar. Like we said, me'ikar adin, you could blow shofar already after the dawn. So if you blew shofar after dawn, yotza, you're yotza. Yeah, and then we actually already learned that Mishnah Berurah. Okay, weiter in the Mechaber. V'im shama miktsas tekiya koydem sha'ala amud hashachar. Let's say, and we really discussed this case in yesterday's shir. Let's say the Baal Tekiah started blowing shofar before dawn. So he picked up the shofar to stop blowing, and he's blowing a long tekiah. And the beginning of the tekiah started before dawn, and the end of the tekiah was after dawn. Says the Mechaber lo yotza, you're not yotza. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Gimel lo yotza. And we learned this halachah yesterday, because we learned yesterday in Sif Gimel on Samach Beis Amud Aleph. This is the halachah of the Mechaber. Hashemea miktsas tekiah shaloi b'chiv. If you heard part of a koil of a tekiah when you weren't really obligated, umiktsasa b'chiv, and part when you are obligated, the Mechaber said lo yotza, you're not yotza. Same halacha here. You heard part of a koil before alois, part of a koil after alois. You're not yotza. So says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Gimel, lo yotza, t'soif tekiah b'loi techila loi mahani v'loi midi. Because hearing the back end of a koil without hearing the beginning of the koil is worthless. You're not yotza anything. Uk'delail b'siman tafkuf pei zayin sif gimel, like we learned yesterday in tafkuf pei zayin sif gimel. V'hu adin im shama miktsas tekiah bayoim. The same halacha would apply. Let's say for some reason you're not blowing shofar until the end of the day. So you blew part of a koil, maybe the last tekiah. You blew part of it while it was still day. Umiktsasa achakach balayla. And the back end of the last koil, you blew, it was already night. Gamken lo yotza. You're not yotza that koil. The tchila b'loi saif, because the beginning of a koil without the end of the koil, gamken lo mahani v'loi midi. That's also not worth anything. V'chanal sham. Continues the Mishnah Berurah. V'nira, it appears, da'afilu hayoim, even nowadays, shenayhagin l'skai ashloishim koilos, where we blow at least 30 koilos, lotzeis yedei kol safik, in order to be yotze the mitzvah with all of the different chumras of what's called a trua. Is it trua a shvarim? Is it a trua? Is it a shvarim and a trua? So we blow at least 30 kailos. We blow 100. But we blow at least 30 kailos to be yotze all the svekis. Tzrichin gamkein lizayer. We have to take care. Sha'av tekiah rishayna, that even the very first kail that you blow, loitihiyah afilu miktsasa kaidem ar hayoim, even a little bit of that koil should not be blown before dawn. Because if you blow at least a little bit of a koil before dawn, then you lose that entire koil. And if you lose the tekiah, you lose the shvarim trua and the tekiah that come after it also. You lose the whole set. Now let's go to the words of the Ramah. Says the Ramah Hagah. V'im haya shir tekiah b'masha shama bayoim. The Ramah is going back on this last case of the Mechaber, where the Mechaber said, if you blew part of a tekiah before dawn and part of a tekiah after dawn, you're not yotza. Says the Ramah, well, wait a second. Let's say you blew part of the tekiah before dawn, you blew part of the tekiah after dawn, but the part of the tekiah that you blew after dawn was long enough, it had the minimum length of a tekiah. What's the halachah then? Says the Ramah, if what you heard by day, the part that was blown after dawn, after daybreak, if that had the shir tekiah, nispar b'siman tafkuf pei zayin siv gimel. We learned the halacha of that yesterday in Siv Gimel. That's what we said yesterday. There are two different shittas. There's one sheet that says that that's okay. There's one sheet that's machmer and says that that's not okay. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Nispar is an ice cotton dalid. Nispar b'simen tafkuf pei zayin sif gimel. Ulefi masha kasavnu sham, according to what we wrote in Mishnah Berurah ice cotton tezvav, deha ikar kedei rishona, that we paskin like the first opinion in the mechaber. The first opinion in the mechaber is even if you heard a sheer tekiah b'chiv, if it was part of a longer koil, and part of that koil was, let's say, before dawn, you lose the entire koil and you're not yotza. So according to that, im ken b'chol gavni lo yotza. Now we go to Sif Beis. Says the mechaber, Shama teisha tekiyos beteisha shois bayoy. Let's say you heard the minimum amount of koilos that you need in order to be yotza the mitzvah, which are 9 koilos. What's 9? Meaning it's 9. It's 3 sets of 3 each. Meaning tekiah, shvarm trua tekiah, that's 3. Tekiah shvarm tekiah, that's 6. Tekiah trua tekiah, that's 9. So let's say you heard the 9, but you heard the 9 in 9 hours of the day. So 1 hour the Baal Tekiah got up, he blew a tekiah. An hour later, he blew a shvarm trua. An hour later, he blew a tekiah. An hour later, he blew another tekiah. So you had a tremendous hefsek over here between the 9 kolos. It was 9 kolos spread out over 9 hours. Shama teisha tekiyos b'teisha shayis b'yayim. Yotza, you're yotza. Says the Mishnah Berurah, ois cotton hay. Teisha tekiyos. Nokat lishna de Gemara ukefi ikar adin. This that the mechaber chose to say 9 kolos, because 9 kolos is the minimum, he's taking it from the Gemara, and he's basing it on the ikar adin, the basic halachah. The be'inon rak tisha kolos im kivein lotzeis. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. The be'inon rak tisha kolos, tahainu tekiah trua tekiah shalish pamim. Because really, me ikar adin, what do you need to hear on Rosh Hashanah, Daraisa? You need to hear tekiah trua tekiah. 3 sets, 9 kolos. Problem is that we don't know what a true is. So therefore, we blow 10 kolos. Tekiah, shvarim trua, tekiah, tekiah, shvarim tekiah, tekiah, trua tekiah. That's, whatever. So that's the it's not really 9. Oladidan, b'shama hashloisha starim b'teisha shais, if you heard the 3 sets over 9 hours, if you spread it out over 9 hours, says the Mishnah Berurah, yeah, you're yotza b'di'evet. You're yotza b'di'evet im kivein lotzeis. If you had kavanah to be yotza the mitzvah, so yeah, you're yotza b'di'evet. But certainly this is not the preferential way to be yotza the mitzvah. Va'afilu yisiach taitoi v'hifsek b'dibur b'intayim. And the truth is that b'di'evet, you're yotza if you heard shofar this way with these tremendous hefsekos, even if you are mafsik in dibur, even if you talked between all the kolos. Because of Magen Avram, the Magen Avram writes, "The kol zeh b'sheshah b'neim shaloi machmas oines." This that you could be yotze hearing shofar this way, with these kolos spread out over so many hours, that's only if the hefsekos that you had were not due to an oines. Ha-b'shah b'oines, but if you had some kind of an oines where you simply were not able to blow shofar. And in halachah, what they talk about over here is, let's say somebody, this is very similar to the halachah of Kriya Shema. Let's say you were mafsik in Kriya Shema because you couldn't say Kriya Shema because you didn't have a guf naki. You needed to go to the Beis HaKisei. So now, that hefsek is an oines, which means that I cannot say Kriya Shema now. It's not that I'm just making a hefsek. Really, I could say Kriya Shema, but I'm not. No, halachically, you're not allowed to say Kriya Shema now. That's a much more stringent type of hefsek. That's a real hefsek. I was in the middle of saying Kriya Shema, and now I made a hefsek because I cannot say Kriya Shema now. That's a real bona fide hefsek. So too over here. If the hefsek that you have in shofar is because of an oines that you cannot hear shofar now, and there's a lengthy biur halacha that discusses over here why not having a guf naki should stop you from blowing shofar. But whatever it is, if you have an oines that you cannot blow shofar now, that's a much more stringent hefsek. So then, im shah afilu rakide ligmar is kal aseder, if that hefsek was long enough that that's the amount of time it would have taken you to blow that set of kolos, yachzer l'rosh aseder, you have to go back to the beginning of that set. So if you heard a tekiah, it was supposed to be a tekiah, shvarim, trua tekiah. You heard the tekiah, and then machmas and oinis, you had a hefsek during which you could have blown the shvarim, trua, and the next tekiah. Now you lost that whole set. You have to blow that set over again. This is Lefi Psak HaRamah b'Siman Samachei in Hilchas Kriyash Ma'ayin Sham. Or le'inyanim tzarech lachzer or levarich b'kai gavna, whether or not you have to make another bracha of shofar in such a case, ayin le'el Siman Samachei b'bir halachah, sheyesh b'zeh machlekes bein achreinim, v'ayin b'bir halachah b'kan meshach hasavdu b'zeh, where he questions why this whole halacha applies to shofar. Okay. So now, I'm just going to read again from the Mechaber from the beginning of Sif Beis for continuity's sake. Shama teisha tikiyais b'sheisha shayis b'yon. If you heard 9 kolos spread over 9 hours, yotza yoyotza, va'afilu heim mitisha b'nei adam. And even if each koil was blown by a different Baal Tekiah, b'nei adam tekiah mizeh, one person blew the tekiah, utrua mizeh, and then somebody else blew a trua, and then tekiah mizeh, and then a third person blew a tekiah. It doesn't matter. Me'ikar adin yoyotza. V'yeshayimrim, there are those that say, the dafka b'shalei hefsek b'neihem b'kol shofar she'eino roi ba'osei bava. This is a very interesting halacha that comes up sometimes on Rosh Hashanah. The Mechaber just said over here that having a hefsek between the kolos is essentially not really a problem. Me'ikar adin. So the Baal Tekiah blew, the Makri says tekiah, he blew a tekiah. Shvarim, he blew a shvarim. Now he's supposed to blow another tekiah. Now we have a hefsek. We're going to have a break for an hour. We come back an hour later. What were we up to? Tekiah. Okay. Now tekiah, another tekiah, trua, tekiah. That's fine. Even though you had that lengthy hefsek between the shvarim and the tekiah, doesn't matter. Everything is fine. Now says the Mechaber, does the Yesh Ibrim, that's true. But what if this is what happened? What if you were supposed to blow a tekiah, shvarim, tekiah? You blew the tekiah, you blew the shvarim. Now you have a hefsek for an hour. Now after an hour you come back, and the Makri says, what were we up to? Shvarim. And the Baal Tekiah blows a shvarim. And then after the shvarim comes a tekiah. Now wait a second. Now you did a tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. Right? Because you made the break after the shvarim. You did tekiah, shvarim, then you had a break. The next koil was supposed to be a tekiah. But when you got back together, the Baal Tekiah blew a shvarim. So now it's tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. There's no such thing as tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. So that shvarim is a koil of the shofar that's out of place. So that's what the Mechaber says here. V'yesh Omrim, there are those that say, the dafka, when is it true that a hefsek is okay? B'shalei hefsek b'neihem b'kol shofar she'eino roi b'os abava. As long as you didn't interrupt with a koil shofar that's out of place. But if you interrupted with a kol shofar that's out of place, that's a problem. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Zion. The dafka b'shalei hefsek svir lahu. These opinions hold. Dezeh gara mehesach hadas v'sicha. Having a koil of the shofar that's out of place is a much more stringent hefsek. That's much worse than just having a hefsek of wasted time or even of dibur. The be'inon sheyeh trua be'emtza. Because a set of shofar blowing is a tekiah, trua, tekiah. Since we don't know what a trua is, sometimes it's a trua, sometimes it's a shvarim, sometimes it's a shvarim trua. But essentially, a 3 koil set of shofar blowing is supposed to be tekiah, trua, tekiah. Ulefaneu lachareh chada chada tekiah. And before every trua and after every trua, there has to be a tekiah. Ukishema ariv kol acher. And now that you mixed in another koil, so you did tekiah, shvarim, tekiah, miskalkal aseder. So now you didn't have a tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. You had a tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. There's no such thing. So this shita holds that kind of hefsek, you lose the whole set. You have to blow that set over again. Even though you're the one who's listening, you're not the one who's blowing. So the actual blowing of the extra coil is not something that you did, But it doesn't matter. That's what you heard. You're listening with kavanah to be yotzei the mitzvah. So it's as if you blew it. So if it's tekiah shvarim tekiah, that's a problem. There's no such thing. And therefore, if you hear the coil of a shofar that does not belong in that seder, you lose that whole set. So according to this Mishnah Berurah, if the makri on Rosh Hashanah calls out tekiah, and the Baal Tekiah blows a tekiah, shvarim trua, he blows a shvarim trua, and then the makri goes shvarim trua, and he blows another shvarim trua, it's not just, no, it was supposed to be a tekiah. Okay, tekiah. No, you got to go back to the original tekiah. You lose that whole set. Because there's no such thing as tekiah, shvarim trua, tekiah. No such thing. So you got to blow that whole set of 3 over again. You don't lose the sets that came before it. You don't have to make another bracha. This is when you have a coil that's out of place. A coil she'ena roi ba'isai bava. Kigoin, for example, sha'imid b'tekiah shvarim tekiah. V'shama trua. So it was supposed to be tekiah shvarim tekiah, and instead it was tekiah trua tekiah. That's a problem. Ay sha'imid b'tekiah shvarim trua tekiah, v'shama shvarim. Aval achreinim is kimendul v'psaka machaber l'kaman simentav kotzal tzivches. Ta'afilu b'hichbel ha'shvarim ay trua shtei pamim heavy hefsek. Even if it's not that it was supposed to be tekiah shvarim trua tekiah, and you heard tekiah trua tekiah, right? No, it's even if you did tekiah shvarim tekiah. Who adin hacha b'shama shnei shvarim or shnei trua zakazev and kivan latzeis gam ken mafsid kol shalish hakolos v'tzarich liskaya mei chadash. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. Like we keep on saying, Achenu kol beis Yisrael, and the student about tzara b'yashivya, ha'imda be'bayom be'abasha, ha'makim mirachem aleim v'yitzim mitzara levacha me'afel la'er b'shibah l'gula, hashta ba'gala v'zman kariv. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring an end to the tzaras in Klal Yisrael and to the tzaras around the world. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas and Refuas and Parnasa to all those in need, and we should be zeich to see the Bias Goel Tzedek b'meher v'yameinu. Be well.